All right. Hello. Welcome to Trust the Process for June of 2021. We have our speaker here, Dr. Breyan Haizlip, who will be leading us through a discussion on sex in the session. I am Dr. Tiffany Rush Wilson. I am here with intern. Would you like to say your name? Gigi, can you say your name?
Soon to be Dr. Giovanna Marie Gaines.
All right. We had a little bit of
Doctoral
celebrity.
intern.
My doctoral intern, yes, soon to be Dr. Gaines. And I will now turn it over to you, Dr. Bree. Thank you much.
Thank you. Thank you. I am still like, why would Dr. Rush Wilson invite me in to have this conversation? And I think so much of it has to do with the comfort level that I have with talking about sexuality. For me, it's just as fluid as talking about anything else in the session. And also, I think early in my career, I realized that if you're not talking about sex, if you're not talking about sexuality, if you're not talking about sexual expression and creating a sacred space for clients to be able to talk about the things that you never can talk about, how ethical is it for us as professionals, right? If we're not talking about the most sacred places of who we are and what we do, then what are we really asking clients to bring to the space? So today we are going to get into that topic. And as a tribute to Pride Month, I made a really colorful, fun, honorary, affirming presentation for you guys to enjoy today. But really, for the folks on the call, this is for us to just have a discussion. It's for us just to talk. And so I'm hoping that everybody jumps on and brings their sexpertise and their questions into the conversation so we can just talk, because this has to be a conversation and not a lecture. So my coffee machine is getting busy in the background. So you might hear some, let me turn that off because that's not sexy. So we're going to jump in and just chat about sex in the session. Let me get to it now. First and foremost, I like to start with something I just call virtual netiquette, so we can shape our space together. The first one is intentional engagement. We're on a space together as we jump into this conversation in our little digital squares, which we've all been on in COVID. Like, people don't even know if we have a lower torso. You might not. I don't know, because I haven't seen humans really outside of this square, but we have to be very intentional about how we engage. And or not, if we can't be on, to feel free to jump off or close your camera or whatever you need to do to take care of yourself. But we got to be intentional. It's also difficult when you're asking hard questions or jumping in the conversation, especially around sex, and everybody's like an avatar. Everybody's like, so we have to be intentional, give some snaps, throw up a heart. There's reactions at the bottom. We just have to show that we're present with people so we don't feel like we're leaving each other out there while we're talking about this conversation. I like to say, make space, take space. We like to keep around the 30-second rule because we want to have enough time for people to get to have an opportunity to participate and to share. And so I like to have everybody, just all of us, put our mindset on 30-second rule and try to be concise and make enough space for other people to have space to share as well. Patience with self and others. Y'all are lucky I'm on vacation right now, so my kids aren't here. But if they were here, you need to know that they would walk in and ask for cereal at any minute. They don't care how important y'all beautiful people are. They're like, Mom, where's the milk? And so you might have some interruptions in your background, but we can be patient with each other because we're in our homes, we're in our personal space. So allow room for that. Drop questions in the chat box, ask each other questions, holler at each other, and build some community in the sacred space in the chat box so that we just keep the flow of ideas and conversation going. And then also, I like to say, take what is shared and share what is learned. It's one thing to say, wow, Dr. Bree shared a story about an experience that she had that really shaped her sexual identity. And then you start sharing details of what I shared. I want to give you the stories that I share, but what I want you to leave with and share with others is what you learned. So don't take the details of what people share in their stories and share those with others, but do take the details of what you learned, what you learned from this experience, and share that. but keep what is shared in terms of stories sacred with each other. And that's just our confidentiality pack in the space so that we can talk more openly and consider what people share. And then as always, a content warning. Here it is. We're talking about sex. Let's just be honest. There's so many of us that don't talk about sex and sexuality openly and regularly. We don't always have the right language. Should I say gay? Should I say straight? Should I say black? Should I say African? We don't always have the right language, but in order for us to have a sacred space where we can really talk about this, we have to norm language and give each other some space to make mistakes, to not say the right thing, to figure out language, to ask questions. And then also, who knows what comes up? I think that all counselors have to have the integrity to be able to understand that sometimes trauma is embedded in things that you have no clue. And so I can be approaching this conversation from a very affirming, fun place. And for someone else, this feels like a really traumatic experience, or it brings up things for them. And so we have to be patient in these settings, especially around these topics, because you don't know what's going to come up for you. You're chilling, you hear a story, and all of a sudden it takes you to a different space. And so we want to be mindful of that and give everybody the opportunity to kind of have that disclaimer up front that who knows what may come up for you, and then seek opportunities for follow-up and debrief. My information is included, but also you have so many wonderful folks that are part of your program and resources for you to reach out as things come up for you if you have additional questions. So take those opportunities on. So that's our virtual netiquette. If you guys are in, give me a little sprinkle. I need to know you're good with our community expectations. Everybody good? Gigi, give me some fingers. T. Rush Wilson, I need to see you. Don't leave me out here. There you go.
I'm sprinkling. I don't know if y'all hear me.
We got a verbal sprinkle.
Yes, and Dr. Carey wrote sprinkle, sprinkle in there. So she's in the chat.
You better get it, Dr. Carey. All right, let's get to it. So I wanted to jump in with just some introductions. I don't know everybody, but your first invitation is your name and your cultural identity. Now, I know that we have normed a culture of, we're beginning to norm a culture around share your name, share your pronouns, and all of that is really important, especially in terms of identity affirmations. But there's so many different aspects to us. And so I like to put name and cultural identity, and everybody's always like, Dr. Bree, what do you mean by my cultural identity? That's the point. Whatever feels meaningful for you to share. And that could be your pronouns, that could be your racial and ethnic background, that could be anything that feels meaningful for you to share. And so I leave that open as an option. And then the question is, what would you like to learn about sex in the session? Anything you'd like to learn, remind you. The stranger the questions are, the better. Because we all just have questions. We all have questions. I don't think I ever exhaust my understanding or my curiosity around a topic that is constantly evolving. And so I want to do some level setting just to see where you are and what are some of the questions that you have. So I'll go first, and in the spirit of my culture, we do something called pass the mic. And so I will grab the mic and go first, and then I'll call in someone and pass the mic to you for you to introduce, and we'll go through everybody who's on the call. So my name again is Dr. Bree. My pronouns are she, her, hers, queen, doctor, your highness. You can use any of those I'm comfortable with. My race is Black and non-white, and I identify also as African American and Afro-Caribbean American as well. And I'm a mom, I'm a Gemini. Those are all things that make me all of who I am today. So that's my cultural background. And what would I like to learn about sex in the session? God, it's always evolving. The newest is I am working a lot with helping couples norm values around open relationships, polyamory, and partnering as couples, like having other sexual partners in a non-monogamous, ethically non-monogamous relationship. So I love to learn more about that. That's what I'm seeing more than anything right now. So that's me, and I'm gonna pass the mic to Lube. Dr. Lube, are you out there?
I'm out here. Hey, y'all. Sorry, I'm driving. Otherwise, I'd be on camera. I'm Lube. I identify as a Macedonian. She, her, hers are my pronouns, but I also am going to steal the queen and the fabulous and all of that from Bree because I feel it, I live it, I embody it. It's my life. What would I like to learn? I am open to learning anything and everything you share today. I am just staying open to the experience because I enjoy you, Bree, and your presentations and energy. So I'm looking forward to everything, really, everything. So thank you.
You got to pass the mic.
Can y'all hear me?
Yep, can hear you.
Okay.
You need to pass the mic to someone now.
Okay. I am passing the mic to you, Tiff.
All right. I am Dr. Tiffany Rush Wilson. I am a Black American, Black Canadian, and let's see, my pronouns are she, her, hers. And I also identify as a mom. That's a big deal for me with my one daughter. What I'd like to learn is really probably some more information about dealing with people who are very uncomfortable with sexuality and how to be patient with them as I work to incorporate and include them into conversations and into communities and sessions. And I am now going to pass the mic to Gigi. Can she hear me? Yeah. Can you hear us, Gigi? Okay, so you're muted still.
Can you hear me now?
Can do.
I had to get somewhere so that there was more quiet. I can't make the 20 other people in this house shut up, so I had to get somewhere quiet. So my name is Giovanna, but most people at the university for short call me Gigi. My pronouns are she, her. I am a mother of 4 amazing children in which I live a lot of my life vicarious. So this is why I'm at Disney probably for the 4th time this year. What do I want to learn? Oh, what else? I identify as Black, unapologetically Black. It is what it is. Grew up in the hood, so every now and again you'll hear a little hood come out. And what do I want to learn? I'm pretty open as well. I'm pretty open to whatever is going to be shared. I don't really have a huge expectation on what to learn, what I want to learn. Did I answer all the questions?
You did.
Okay.
So now you need to pass the mic.
Yes.
I-
You know the cipher. Pass the mic.
Right. I passed the mic to, I know Lube. Did Lube talk? I heard Dr. Carey, did she talk?
Not yet, not to Carrie.
I did not.
Okay, so
Can
Dr.
everybody hear
Carey,
me?
I'm passing the mic unapologetically.
Alrighty. Is there an echo, by the way?
Nope, can hear you fine.
Okay, great. Because I have one on my phone and one on my computer to see everybody. So I'm trying to multitask here. So I'm Corey Carey. I like to go by K in any non-academic settings, Dr. K in the academic setting. I identify as a Black female, unapologetically Taurus in every sense of the word. I am the bull. I am neighbors with Gigi, also from the hood. So you can take the girl out the hood. You cannot take the hood out the girl. And that is so true. So the things I like to learn about today, someone told me about the session, and I have been too exploring, like with Dr. Bree, about non-traditional relationships, especially ethical non-monogamy. And just like we try to remove the stigma from mental health versus mental illness, so is the same with intimate relationships. I am the person that lives and let lives, and that is my philosophy, no judgment. I'm as Nigerian as they come. So like Dr. Tiffany said, I need to learn some patience with those that aren't.
Okay, thank you. And you're
Thank you.
passing the mic.
And I'm gonna pass the mic, me and DJ Cassidy, to Callaway iPhone.
Yay.
think I-
Hi, sorry. I just showed up a little late and I'd be on camera, but I'm like running around my kitchen. I'm making some tinctures at the moment. So I just kind of wanted to come and be a fly on the wall. My name's Callaway. I live in Nashville, Tennessee. I'm just starting my second year in the clinical mental health counseling program, and my pronouns are she, her. I love all the zodiac folks out there. I'm a Cancer, so I feel like this is going to give me an interesting platform. You know, that cardinal water, if you all know what I'm talking about. But yeah, I'm just really happy to be here. I'm excited to learn about the way that we connect, the way that we love each other, the way that we identify. Yeah, and so thank you so much for having me.
Thank you for being here.
I failed to mention and throw that Virgo in there because we the best.
Here you go.
Beyonce,
Clearly, we're not going to run
God was
the
a
list.
Virgo. God was a Virgo.
We're
Well,
not going to run the list, Virgo. I knew you had a problem here.
God was a Virgo.
No. Leos are the best. I'm
Is
a
that-
Leo.
God was a Virgo. God is a Virgo.
Leos.
So-
God
Leos
is a
are
Virgo.
well,
Well,
this Gemini is going to take the opportunity to let Daenerys introduce herself because there's one
Thank
more
you,
person
Daenerys.
here. Yes.
thank you,
You're welcome.
Daenerys, welcome. Jump in. Feel free to introduce yourself.
Hi, everybody. Sorry that I'm late. I was rushing in traffic, so you can't see me because I'm in my car. So I'm
Just
trying to
glad to
get out
have you here.
now. My name is Daniris Peña. I don't know what I'm supposed to say. Is there anything I'm supposed to say? Hello, can you hear me?
Just who you are and what
Yeah.
you want to get out of this. Daenerys. I
Okay,
mispronounced your
so-
name. I apologize.
Sorry. So my end goal is to be a sexual therapist, counselor type. So anything that has to do, I guess, with any sex sessions, I guess I want to be part of it because I need to learn these things, which is very fun for me. So yeah.
Yay. Fun. I
Yeah.
love that you brought us around full circle with just that, because this conversation can be fun. I also want y'all to know that my goal for today is also to blow open the realm of possibilities around this conversation, which is why I'm like, TRW, you sure you want me to have this conversation? I have a way of coming to do presentations and then they're like, yeah, you can't come no more. Like, well, because I think one of the conceptual frameworks for all the work that I do now is to be trauma informed, especially around understanding what has been going on in the world, y'all. There is so much has changed, and I'm going into all these different settings and having conversations where clinicians, practitioners are wanting to use the same models, the same paradigms, like quarantine never happened, like this new civil rights movement never happened, like all of these things that happened in the last year and a half have not created traumatic experiences that have changed us forever. Do y'all know, I don't got to tell y'all because y'all here with me, that what we went through, particularly focusing on couples, research right now is showing that the quarantine, people experience 10 to 15 years of their relationship within 3 months. The average time frame for which you're actually with your partner on a regular basis having intimate time was somewhere between 30 minutes and 2 hours before quarantine. So that meant you could have a lifetime with somebody that you only had to deal with 2 to 3 hours a day, y'all. That's a whole new relationship. Now we have these relationships where people were together 24/7 with their kids, with their family, with each other, and it changed things for people, especially regarding their sexual intimacy and their physical relationships. It changed because of proximity and because of trauma. Now, let me ask y'all this question. During quarantine, overall, do you think people were having more sex or less sex? Now, I know there's layers, because y'all brainiacs are like, well, which age group? What kind of sex? Was it oral? Was it by yourself? What was, I just, in general, in terms of intimate partner relationships, right? Do you think people during the pandemic, during quarantine, were having more sex and or less sex, just in general?
Well, I feel like it depends though, because we're gonna find out in about 10 years when people are saying, "Oh, you're a COVID baby."
When your name starts with Q, because everybody's
So, personally, okay, I'm sorry. I have my sister here, so I was having a lot of sex. Personally. um, but I feel like people were having less, mainly because there was a lot of divorces going on during COVID, and a lot of people got married because they not liked each other, like they knew each other, but didn't realize that they didn't like each other. So there's a difference when you're living with somebody that you barely see because you're working, to actually being with them 24/7. So I feel like that made it less, and it depends on your relationship. If your relationship was solid from the beginning, great. If not, I don't think people were having a lot of sex.
Okay. So you were getting there, but you don't think other people were. I got it.
I mean, honestly, my relationship was good, but this was a very interesting test to take it to the next level, which it did, but it doesn't work out for everybody the same. I guess because I'm a better listener and understanding, and which is why I'm in this field. But he's also the same way. He's listening and understanding and tries to, we both compromise. A lot of people don't use a lot of compromise in their relationship. My way or bye.
I appreciate that. I appreciate that. So you say it went up, but of course there's some variance there with it. Just depends. Right. And how people showed up. It changed. It was different for a lot of people. And I think one of the things I want to put on y'all's radar is that there's no rules around this time frame. Like no one knew what to do. This is something that in the history of civilization we never went through before. So there's not a ton of rules for like, you think you have a really solid relationship, which you do if y'all are only seeing each other 3 to 5 hours a day. You have a whole different relationship when you are experiencing active trauma. Your partner is, and y'all are stuck in the house together. People also have really great relationships when their kids go to school. We forgot how much our intimacy was related to being able to have proximity distance. Trying to have sex in the house where you had kids, or in some places where you had multi-generational families coming into a house together so we could all care and love on each other, that all affected and had and caused different layers for folks in terms of sexual intimacy. And so research says people had far less sex. It was real hot the first couple of weeks. Everybody was like, oh, we stuck in the house? It was cute for about a week. Week 2, it was still like, but when we started to sink into the gravity of what was going on for us, our actual sex dwindled a lot in terms of people having sex. Now there's all these other research studies that have variance around. Overall sex went down, but for some age group, sex went up. Now, let me ask you this. Which age group do you think started having more sex during this quarantine, the pandemic, during 2020? Which age group do you think started having more sex?
I think the older generation.
TRW, what do you think?
I would think maybe millennials. Next, the ones under, maybe Gen Xers.
Callaway, who do you think was getting it on more?
I'm so sorry. This is so great. I'm sorry. This is between who?
What's that? What'd you say?
I said I missed like between who? Who? I'm coming on so you can see my face.
Hey. It's good to see you.
I missed who it was between.
It was, well, I didn't give you guys any choice. Who do you think was getting it on more sexually? Overall, we know rates went down overall in the US. But who do you think was actually getting it on a little bit more than usual?
I think those millennials.
Millennium. Yeah. Well, the funny thing is actually ages 52 to 65, we're having far more sex than they ever had before. Y'all know.
I was right.
Tell me why. Tell me why. All my beautiful healers and practitioners out there, just hypothesize. Why do you think that age group was having more sex?
Well, I have always been a strong believer. For example, I'm gonna take my mother as an example. I've always said that after you're done, yes, your mother. After you're done,
I
after
love
you
this conversation. Talk about your mom, yes.
You know, she's welcome to be on camera too if you want.
Jump
She can
on.
be here. Yeah.
Yeah, if she's in there, she might as well.
she's 19, so
Then she should really be on. We'll get to that in a different slide though.
I'm a strong believer that, well, and I don't know if it's only like my family. I can't say culture because my culture tends to make women feel old after they're 30. Oh, you're 30, you're too old, you can't do certain things, whatever. But from my family per se, they've always said that when you're done raising your kids, that your kids are already done with college or whatever it is, it's your time to live. You could redo whatever you want. So at the time you're 50, you have, I'm not saying you can't get pregnant, but it's a time for you to like have free sex. So I feel like this generation, or this a certain group of people, now that they're home and they have more time for themselves, they felt liberated and more, with needs that want to be met. So of course they're going to take advantage of it.
I like where your mind is at, and you're actually right. My personal belief is that, especially women, I think we don't even really peak until we hit our 60s. I think that's when we become bad asses.
Right.
And we also know that hormonally, in terms of our sexual peak, there's a lot of sexual energy in that transition phase. But generally, you're also busy as shit. Like that's the retirement age where you're bringing a lot of things, like you are settling down, as well as your body is starting to be more stimulated. And so it was a slower time where it was like, you know what, I got time to sit around and be sexy. And so what we saw is that the folks that usually didn't have time were actually having a much sexier life. One study even talked about the reasons why. Conceptually, that age group has a much more mature outlook on the functionality of sex as well, in terms of well-being and wellness. One of the things on particularly Maslow's hierarchy of needs, and depending on what you look at, I find it fascinating that they usually take this out of the diagram. One of the basic needs, right after food, water, all of that, and the second part, and before belonging, sexual excretion is there. Now, further up the scale is sexual intimacy. Sexual excretion and sexual intimacy are two different things. That you have a physiological need for you to have a sexual orgasm and some sort of excretion as a part of the neuroscience of your well-being, meaning that there are not a lot of species on this planet that have one organ that is only for pleasure, but females, I think, what is it, Tiff? It's like a dolphin has a clitoris and one other species. And the only function of that organ is pleasure. That means that the whole universe made sure that you just had one thing that is supposed to do nothing in your body but bring you pleasure. So what we know is that you have an anatomical need to have sexual pleasure, to have these physical reactions in which you excrete all of these wonderful, happy filling hormones into your brain as a part of what stabilizes you and your well-being and your body as well. And so we don't really talk about sexuality as a part of a biological health issue as well. How many of you are jumping into session and saying, when's the last time you had an orgasm? This leads me into the first part. Y'all looked at me like, what? You jumping on asking people? Yes, I have. I actually do coaching now, and with my individual clients, you have an entire week that is just for some people it's a month, but you have a week of tantric assignments that first start with reallocating mindfulness and turning a meditative state of self-pleasure as a part of your blisscipline into your daily activities. And for some people, they're like, what? What? Like, yes, especially for my female clients, because we are taught that we're not supposed to have any sexual feelings that are not relational, meaning that your sexual pleasure has to be embedded in a relationship for you to have it. And if you're not sharing it with someone else, then you don't get it. And that's a huge part of society. Because when you start, I want you to think about that. My children, if my partner was on, this drove him crazy, but now he gets it. He thought I was joking when they were kids. I have 3 little girls, and I have always felt like it's so important for them to understand their pleasure before they let anybody touch them. I believe that you are supposed to have an orgasm on your own before you ever let anyone touch you, because you will make a lot of shitty decisions about relationships simply because you want to explore your sexual body. You will deal with a lot of people. You will let people do a lot of things to you just because you're interested in how your body feels. But you feel like you can't touch it yourself and learn about it yourself. So you jump into relationships and let other people do that to you. The danger of that and the harm in that is that it teaches people to not define their own sense of self-pleasure. And your sense of self-pleasure, especially from a alternative ethnic studies, indigenous perspective around energy centers in your body, this is also connected to your sense of whether or not you feel like you deserve pleasure in your life. Is your life supposed to have joy and pleasure for no reason? We don't always see our sexual self as connected to our sense of worthiness, but it is. This is your first relationship with your body and whether or not your body is supposed to experience joy. And so it is an ethical issue for us to not talk about that, because how do you help a client understand their healing journey and their sense of worthiness if you can't even talk to them about their sense of feeling worthy to experience pleasure for no reason? And I emphasize for no reason, because that's the heart of it, that your life is supposed to just feel good for no reason. And it begs the question that, can everything in the world be going really bad? Can you have a really shitty circumstances in your life, but do you also need to feel bad? Can life be hard and you not also feel terrible? That is a huge existential dilemma for folks, that just because things are going bad, I have to now mimic that same feeling. And the truth is that you don't. And that has very much to do with the very first part of how you understand your worthiness for pleasure and joy in your life, that things can be really bad and I could still be happy. So our job is to help at least this is the approach that I take. People like to talk to me about sex because this is how I talk about it. I approach it as them understanding that to not talk about it is harmful. Y'all picking up what I'm putting down around this ethics piece? Do no harm. If you are not talking to your clients about their sexual life and their relationship to their body in terms of pleasure, I call that an ethical issue, because you're not trying to see them. People can, especially couples can tell you a whole story about what's going on. And as soon as you ask them what's going on in the bedroom, you have just entered the truth. I've seen whole couples that can keep a relationship together beautifully, but in the bedroom, there's nothing there, or there's a mechanics there, there's a performance there, there's a script there, and all of a sudden this whole other layer of their intimacy starts to come out when we get to that part of it. That's where couples hide their secrets. The bedroom is where couples hide their secrets around money and power. Am I lying? Look, y'all thought we were just gonna talk about vaginas and penises and whatnot. But there's levels to this thing, right? We're not just talking about sex from the traditional notion. You have to see how your sexuality is intertwined in everything. And if the degree by which you're willing to talk to clients about it in session is the degree by which you are willing to deal with your own sexual self. I think it's also unethical to not talk about self-pleasure and to only talk about sex within the context of other people. Just like any other aspect of counseling, we are always trying to pull clients back to themselves. You're like, so how was your day? Well, my mom, talk about yourself. Well, my kids, talk about yourself. Well, my partner, talk about yourself. And sex is the same way, that when you ask people about if they're even sexually active, they will go to the relational context and want to talk about other people. Your job ethically is to bring people back to themselves. And this is where it gets difficult, because the seat of guilt, come on with me, the seat of guilt a lot of times for people actually begins with them having guilt about their body and what their body is doing despite their control. And I'm going into some developmental milestones that have to do with right when we get to having this embodied relationship with ourselves. That's when the world gets weird with us. And that's when the rules start coming in. That's when religion starts to also affect us in many ways in terms of our stories around guilt. That's when gender comes in, where guys are like, here, give them a sock and some lotion. And women are like, I hope you're not touching that thing. There are women who can't even grab a mirror and sit down and look at their vagina without saying, ill. Like, I just can't even look at it. I can't stare at it in the face. Y'all know I'm not lying, right? There are all of those different layers of it that are really embedded in the conversation. And so you have to first start with you being able to talk about your own self-pleasure, finding language that feels comfortable for you. Because if you can't do that, clients pick up on that. The comfort level that people have talking to me about sexuality is because this is how I talk about it. I'm very comfortable with it. And I brought up that with my partner, telling him like our kids have to learn self-pleasure before we talk to them about condoms and boys. And I have a 9-year-old who's already out. Well, she's 10 now, but she came out when she was 9, like, Mom, I'm gay. So we have to have these conversations right off the bat. And my 15, well, she was 14 at the time, and she was like, you always say that you would help me with this and you've helped our cousins, but I'd like to order a vibrator. And I was like, let's get it done. And then my husband found it and he was like, this was in her room. What the hell? And I was like, first of all, put it down, because that's gross. And he was like, what should I do? I was like, you should mind your business. And I told you. He was like, this is not good. This is not good. I feel like you're teaching our kids to go out and have sex. I was like, you ain't find condoms. You ain't find some dude in there. You found a vibrator. This is the best news ever. Like, she's getting to know her. And I was also very clear about her not getting anything phallic, meaning like the shape of something that could penetrate her body. Because I was also clear about that's not what you're needing right now. What you're needing is just to understand how your body is feeling. And so he was like, I'm going to confront her. Here's the next part. I was like, what would that do? What would you do? What would happen if your dad runs in the room with your vibrator and wants to talk to you about it? He was like, you're right. That doesn't sound like, it doesn't. You can't, because you can do harm. It is great that she is learning about her body, right? If any other body or biological function turned on for her, we'd want her to learn more about it. Soon as it's sexual reproductive organs, we freak out, which is the stuff she needs to learn about more than anything. And it's not his right to interrupt her process and to shame her about what is a healthy exploration, even though it's completely non-traditional. And his question was, what do I tell my mom? You don't tell your mom shit about my kid's vibrator. How about that? How about that's her business, which is the other ethical part of it, that confidentiality and letting people have exploration in a way that's meaningful for them without you judging it. But it does start with you ethically letting them talk about their self before they make it relational. Y'all picking up what I'm putting down? Questions about how I'm framing do no harm and all the different places where it can be harmful for us to intercede on what is appropriate development. Questions, thoughts, feelings. I told y'all I was going to be getting y'all.
I actually do have a question, Dr. Bree. So because a lot of my work is geared toward, let me see how to shape this, religious practice, like doing work in the church with people that grew up with Christian background. And I want to go on board first and foremost as a Christian to say that I completely agree, as a mom of 3 daughters as well. And when we talk about sex, That's the same thing I said. I'd rather for you to get to know yourself and give you a vibrator versus you going to collecting all of what I feel is these different energies and spirits that might not be what you need for the rest of your life. So this is my question from an ethical perspective or therapeutic perspective. How would you work with a client with religious practices that forbid? Because even as I read my Bible, it's there. I don't necessarily process it that way, but what would you say to a client about self-pleasure and getting them to move away from the guilt of what they've known all their life, especially for those that grew up in church?
Beautiful question. Now, there's also Dr. Bree's style, which I'm going to give you because you have to know your style. And I'm gonna also give you some pieces where you integrate and know your style. Your job is to have an arsenal of approaches. And religious folks who find guilt, I switch to science. I am equal parts sage, scientist, sister girl. I will move around on you, right? Just like meditation is a part of everything I do. And for some people, that word is triggering. So I call it brain coherence. And I can teach people about how to move from alpha waves to delta waves to different states of brain coherence to engage their autonomic nervous system. But when I call it meditation, they close up, right? I can call them neuroendocrinological energy centers instead of chakras. So science says that your body actually needs sexual excretion as a basic function. So let's talk about that. I also talk about it within worthiness of pleasure. And I don't run from the questions of people's relationship with the stories of religion. One of the things that I had to work through is my biases of different people's religion and what that meant. Because a lot of times people choose to work with me specifically because they want to talk about things that they can't talk about. And I have to hold that as sacred and make sure my own religious identity and my own perceptions of what I think Christians or Muslims or like anybody wants to talk about. I lived in Dubai, which is a fully Islamic country, and they could not wait to come and talk to me about sex. They could not wait. They were like, "You're American, listen." There are people that who are devout Christians. I work with pastors that are like, there ain't nowhere else I can talk about this. So you have to also see yourself as a safe harbor for folks and work through your own bias of what you think people want to hear. And if you're still performing religion because you needing to perform that is more important than you needing to help clients work through their own stuff, I think that's something that ethically you have to check. You have to be able to do that. That if someone comes in and you know they're devout, or a devout Christian or their religious values will keep them from having a conversation, you have to deal with your own fear around challenging people because they also come to you to work through some things. One of my biggest work throughs was working with a gay Black male in the South who was a PK, a preacher's kid, and Black men in the South, he's like, we're not allowed to be, he kept calling himself homosexual. And he was like, I have to do that because my religion requires me to do that. And I was like, I will never call you homosexual. And people are like, you have to meet a client where they are. I don't care if a client comes in and says, call me nigger, that don't mean I'm going to do it. That is, and I'm saying this to y'all because that was a huge conflict in session because he kept saying homosexual. And then finally he confronted me like, why won't you just respect that? And I was like, because your whole body doesn't even like when you say that. It doesn't even feel good to identify in that way. And so I'm giving you language so that you can start finding a more affirming way to integrate all the pieces of who you are. And if my entire discipline abandoned that language, saying it was harmful, I'm not bringing it back just so that you can feel validated in that, because I can see from your somatic reaction how it's making you feel. I share that because how you challenge incongruence with clients is a very unique thing to you, but you have to have a lot of arsenal. When I switch to science, religious people feel real comfortable because our society, in terms of the biology of belief, we can separate that. Our brains can separate that. And so people can talk about science, the science of sexuality with more ease and grace than they can just talk about culturally, sexually, which is religious. So you just got to be able to jump around and work around people's brain, which means you got to know more than just one way of talking about things. And that's an ethical thing too. How strong is your repertoire, right? When someone comes in and they're like, well, we're E&M, do you even know what that means? You have to stay up to date so you can jump around. Thanks for that question. Any other questions? Now, y'all ready to keep going?
Now, please share some books as well on some of your tools that you utilize or that you've read in this area.
Will do. I'll send some resources too for Dr. Rush Wilson to share with you all. But a great one to start is I love I love the Ethical Slut is a great one. There's also another one that I use for a class I teach called The Psychology of Love, Lust, and Attraction. And one of the things that I have my clients do right off the bat in their sessions is something that's called your trigger. It's called your turn on trigger. And turn on trigger is a quiz, which is awesome. I took it the other day. I used to be cognitively turned on, like, ooh, intellectual, that's sexy. Turns out, just like Myers-Briggs, my test shifted and now I'm cat and mouse. What? I like a little play. But you can be environmental, you can be visual, and you have to know your sexual language like you know your love language, like you know your apology language. And when you give people language like that, it gives them entire context for how they're relating to people, not just sexually, but also intimately. And so that one is called The Game of Desire. And you can actually go to her website because the quizzes are crazy on there. And it includes tons of new language and even job descriptions. I have my students do job descriptions for dates. I have them do their janky trauma-informed sexual profile, and then their ideal healthy sexual profile. And it's so fun because clients are like, I did my assignment. Female, seeking dysfunctional, unemployed, financially unstable, slightly abusive male, toxic masculinity, a plus. Like you got to hear the shit you're saying. And I make people put it on paper because here's another way that you're talking about sexuality from a relational standpoint, which is also safer for people. So people get to see themselves like, I married my dad, damn it, man, right? And then you write your healthy one, and now you have this whole new idea. So The Game of Desire, I run that book right off the bat, and there's some wonderful activities along the way to help people do the work. But my clients come out on the other end and they know so much about themselves. They're like, hi, I'm actually not available for that. I am looking to partner with a couple to practice a little bit of sexual, like they have language that is on a whole new level that even if the religious folks in their community are like, well, what that mean? We never thought about that. That ain't in the Bible. That ain't in the Quran. Because there's a science of it that is evolving around. Like there's just layers to how we can experience relationships. And I want you to look at y'all's energy. Even talking about it in a different way, y'all are like, let me take my little turn on trigger quiz and see what my situation is like. People, neuroscience calls it self-directed neuroplasticity. When they learn something new, you evolve. Your job is to make sure people evolve and to share enlightened ideas that awaken people to new ways of being and becoming and like just being who they are. So if you're always introducing new stuff, your clients are like, well, what is that? I'd like to ask you about this fifth type of orgasm that they've discovered, right? Like people are interested and want to talk about this stuff, but you just have to be willing to be really affirming about all the different ways that people talk about it and all the different ways that sexuality and sexual identity is expressed. And it's not just one way, it's as individual as every single person. I like to give clients the concept that like sexuality is like an adventure, like a being on a bus your entire lifetime and you get off at different stops. I jumped off at the lesbian stop. I stayed there for about a year. I wasn't good at it. So I got back on the bus, I kept rolling. Stopped at Poly. That was fun. That made sense for a minute. got back on the bus, moved on. I stopped for about 20 years on traditional straight passing marriage. That was cool. We kicked it, back on the bus now. Sexuality is how you feel right now and who you're with. And that is as fluid as any other part of you. It surprises people the expansive ways that they can be attracted to people. Another part is that I also talk about energy and agency. I see sexuality is that there is no attraction that does not have a sexual undertone to it. Let me say that again. There is no attraction that doesn't have a sexual undertone to it, meaning that my closest friends, I'm so sexually attracted to. Does that mean I want to have sex with them? Not necessarily. It means that they stimulate me. My body, because I really am about being embodied and understanding that feelings are physical sensations before they are mental narratives. I put my clients back in their body to feel their body, which means that if you are reacting to someone, your body's doing it first before you start trying to tell yourself what it is. And if you can catch where your body and how it's experiencing someone, you have a way to break through what I call the 4 Fs. Now, the 4 Fs are the 4 limited boxes that every time we have a chemistry or a connection with someone, our limited little human brains got to put it in one of the 4 Fs. Family, friend, foe, or fucking. Those are the 4 Fs. Every time you meet somebody, you're like, I like you, I don't like you, I could hook up with you, or you're just gonna be a friend. The limitation of that is energetically, you are capable of having connections with people that are so much more vast. You know, that same energy of wanting to have sex with somebody, you can also create multi-million-dollar businesses with that same person, because y'all are hitting, here goes that sacral energy, that energy source that is about sexuality, creativity, and enterprise. Like, it's all there. Why is that all in the seat of the same place for us? Because your chemistry is also sexually informed. This word we use, sexual, because you should get stimulated when you meet new people. And that ain't scary. That's an exciting thing. So your job is to help clients have more than 4 boxes. What happens if you meet me and we have a really dope chemistry and you can't figure out what it is? What happens if you don't put it in one of the 4 Fs? Anything. Now you're starting to be aligned with possibility and potentiality. And that's real life stuff, where if you don't define something, it still has the possibility to be anything. And that's where real relationships can blossom. So how do you keep clients from putting things in the 4 Fs? Now, let me pause there. Questions, thoughts so far?
I just want to know where's the multi-million-dollar book at.
Gigi, you're pixelated. We can't really hear you clearly right now. Can you type your question in the chat?
I put my question is in the chat.
No, I can hear you now.
It's in the chat. I just want to know what book, where can I find it? I'm going to order it on Amazon today, where the multi-million-dollar sex is. I need that. I mean, I wouldn't say I'm asking for the clients or I'm asking for my friends, but I'm asking for myself.
What you say, in your own draw? I love it. I'm reading the chat too. So one place that we talk about it actually is in the book I already told you, The Game of Desire. The second one is, this is actually something that I write about, the 4 Fs. Okay. And then also in Joe Dispenza's book, Becoming Supernatural, it is the idea that you can do anything you want with energy. And some of the most powerful energy is sexual. And so you have the ability to transmit and transmute and transform energy into anything you want. So if you want to make it an orgasm, you can. If you want to make it a shitty monogamous relationship, you could do that too. If you want to turn it into a masterpiece, a podcast, a consulting agency, you can do that too. But there's also, you learning how to hold sexual energy. And here's where our trauma and sense of agency comes in. What you learned about what to do with sexual energy is what defines what you end up doing with it. If religion always told you to suppress it, I want you to think about it like this. That sexual energy is literally stored here in that sacral area in your energy center, right? And it's pure. Oh, my zipper down. Look, y'all think I try to flirt with y'all. I ain't flirting with y'all in this presentation, trying to show y'all things. What we know is that that's also where creativity. I thought that was perfect. I know you did, Dr. KC. I ain't dealing with you today. That was part of the presentation. That would be dope. But that energy, when you are sexually stimulated, you're also being inspired creatively. That is the same thing. And so when you start to garner all this energy building up right here in this lower area, and it starts to want to rise and you want to create, if you depress it, listen to what I'm saying. This is a different way of thinking about depression. It is suppressed creative energy. When you are calling forth or generating this creativity and you do nothing with it, you are either going to explode or implode, because you're going to create disaster and chaos in yourself, or you're going to create something beautiful. You get what I'm saying? So we have to teach people that when you're sexually stimulated, you have to do, did you call me fit? You better get it. Yes. Yes. Look at Dr. K.
Did not. I said that you were looking snatched. And is that a requirement? Because I'm quarantined thick.
I'm quarantined thick too. You call it snatch, so I will take it. I love Southern eyes. Anyway, we're going to build a multi-million-dollar business, Casey. We'll get with that later. What was I saying? What was I talking about?
Well, Dr. Bree, I like what you are saying. And I think what you're kind of giving permission to is like a new idea on like what it means to birth something, which is also a way to invite folks that maybe aren't participating in this traditional kind of relational sexual outcome, to be invited to create things and to love things like they're their children, so yeah, I love this a lot. And I feel you.
I love it. Yeah. Callaway, that's a wonderful synopsis. Yes, seeing sexuality and creative energy being generated, and what can you do with it? What can you create with it? And when you deny that you're generating this all the time, you are depressing. That's what, from a somatic standpoint, that's depression. When you do not have a creative outlet for all the energy that's coming in. You can do anything with it, but you have to be willing to allow energy to stimulate you. Here's this next level. That's sexual agency from my perspective. The ability to make choices according to your will and free of coercion. And it's not about who you want to have sex with. It's about what do you want to create with your sexual energy. And that's your choice. That's your agency. Y'all picking up what I'm putting down?
Hey, Bree, I have a quick question.
Yeah, jump in.
With the agency, the free from coercion part, is that also encompassing the free of judgment of others?
That's a good question. One of the slides that I love to put up for humans is I put up a safe space slide for everybody. And then right when everybody is like, yeah, I want to feel safe, I put up a little shit ball emoji over top of it, because I call bullshit on safe. I'm saying that because we have to stop telling people that there is some place on the planet where you are going to feel safe enough, free of judgment, and that the world will make it perfect for you to be who you are. That does not exist. There ain't no safe space. You have to be able to express yourself in what I call pure form. I hypothesize that we are all performing as per the situation. Performing is you expressing yourself in a way that attempts to manipulate and or control someone's perspective of you. It means that you have to shave off the edges of yourself in every single setting until you are palatable as per your perception of the setting. Which begs the question, if you are somebody else or a performance of yourself in every setting, then where are you actually you? I call the move from performing to pure forming. Pure forming is when you are expressing yourself wholeheartedly as an act of self-love and soul care that affirms you being you as you are. I am wanting to teach my clients that their expression, as purely as it is the only truth. And that no one could possibly validate that, because in reality, there has never been another you, and there never will be ever again in the history of you. So who could tell you how to be you? Not only that, when you are not fully being you and you're showing up as per the situation or as per values that you've imposed on yourself because of whatever reason, then you are doing something that we don't like to call it this, but I call it this for my own accountability. One, you're lying. You're lying. You're presenting yourself as a performance of yourself and then making judgments about how people feel about you when nobody's actually met you. Most of us are pissed off that people don't like who we pretend to be. So how do you know how anyone actually feels about you if you're never you? Not fully, not wholly, right? So you're lying. And the second part is that, do you really think that you know better than universal intelligence? You were put together perfectly. And like they say, every decision since the beginning of time had to come together perfectly for you to be you exactly as you are at this moment in time and never exist again. So do you really think the universe fucked up? So the best that we can do is to teach our clients to show up in pure form and to express themselves in pure form. And your identity is not a label that someone else slaps on you, agrees with, or don't agree with. That your identity is how you express yourself purely. And that is for the sake of you encouraging the whole world to do it. Because as you give yourself permission to be you, you do that for your clients as well. And you do that for your kids. That is why I believe in something that is my mission, which is healing-centered social change. And it's about understanding that you don't change the world, you heal. You heal. When you heal from the traumatic experiences that keep you from showing up in pure form in every way, including sexually, as you heal, then you heal your great-grandbabies. We cannot be so obsessed with our ancestors that we forget about our great-great-grandchildren. And that's a pivot that I had to evolve in how I look at multicultural counseling and working with people. Can you do it for your great-grandchildren? That looks different. I want my great-grandchildren to have fluidity. My ancestors probably didn't even see it like that because their struggle, their challenges, their barriers, the things that they had to do were different than what mine are. Considering that we are all coming out of trauma that has never been seen before on this planet, and there's a gap where we're all trying to figure out who we are now, I think that it is our job as healers to help people rise into pure forms of their self and start to develop what studies show are the most desirable characteristic of leadership for the future. And that is the ability to unlearn core beliefs. Anybody could pick up something and learn it. That was desirable in the last 2 centuries of our species. But there ain't a lot of people who are willing or able to unlearn core beliefs that no longer serve our future. And so the things that I'm teaching, the things that I'm putting into the world now, they're not about surviving, they're about evolving. Because Einstein said that problems are not solved at the same level of consciousness in which they were created. And so we have to evolve. We have to evolve into new ways. I talk to couples now about, are you entering a season of openness? And they look at me like, what do you mean open? We don't want an open relationship. Well, first of all, you don't know what an open relationship is. And it looks different for different couples, but forever is a long time. And if you've been with someone for 1-2 decades, it's not even honest to say that there's not some need for some openness. And as soon as I start to put that out there, couples start playing with things. And it's not about them taking on any ideas. It's about me introducing enlightened ideas that make them have to start thinking about themselves in a more honest and pure formed way. That is your job, to constantly be facilitating opportunities for people to evolve. which means that you have to introduce new ideas. That's self-directed neuroplasticity. New ideas, which means that you have to first introduce new ideas into your own life. Because nobody's going there when you are all still traditional missionary, can't even conceive of other types of anything. Or if you're walking around like, I think, everybody each to their own. Nah, this isn't about your personal values. This is about you being a skilled practitioner, which means you got to know some other things other than just how you were taught about life. Y'all picking up what I'm putting down? And that is my time for today. I tried to get it in. Oh, we're 12 minutes over. I tried to get it in, TRW.
You did okay.
All right. Talk has layers. It gets a lot more, but I wanted to give you guys the overview. So I have some more time, and if we wanted to hang on for some more questions, I'm here for y'all.
Thank you, Bree. I really, really appreciate you coming and talking to us and enlightening us and sharing with us. Appreciate you.
Dr. Bree, did you say you had a podcast?
What's that?
Did you say you had a podcast?
Oh, I do. Yes, my launch date for the full season is coming up. I'm also dragging TRW into it.
Oh, okay.
He doesn't know.
So we're just gonna be on a cliffy. No name of the podcast, no nothing.
No, it's on there. Oh, I'm sorry. I thought I put it on here. It's called Show Up and Feel Through.
Say it one more
That's
time.
awesome.
I'll post
I'll post, yeah, thank you, T. I'll send that out too, but it's called Show Up and Feel Through. Right now, the first pilot episode is up, but in the next week, you're gonna get 12 episodes. The whole first season will be up, and it's nice and dirty like this presentation. It is a whole bunch of, I'm trying to blow open the realm of possibilities for what we should be talking about. So show up and just feel through it. Thank you for asking that. Mwah. Any other questions? Thoughts, feelings?
Yes, I actually want to know, when will you be doing more seminars, more of everything? Because can you marry me?
Yes. Yes, I'm available. As long as you're down with a community of love. I got a lot of love to give, D.
I love it. Seriously though, I would like to know everything, your schedule of everything. I'm like, I'm hearing you, and I'm like, wow, she's like me, very raw, crude. I like it.
That is such a high compliment from somebody who's also from the hood. Yeah.
You had me in neuroplasticity.
You gotta get it, Gigi.
And I don't even like girls, but you had me in neuroplasticity. You speaking my language. That's my love language.
Come on, equal parts science, sister sage. Who says you can't be all of them? My goal is there's no more shaved off parts. I spent a long time performing as a scientist, long time performing as a sister, long time performing as a sage. I'm equal parts. So all three of them in all places, all of me now forever. So I love y'all for affirming that. And yeah, jump on my website. That's also gonna be, I got a launch date coming up for my brand new website with all my courses and stuff, but jump on my website and subscribe, and then you'll get updates for all of the different things I'm gonna be up to.
Awesome.
Very cool. Yeah, thank you for that. Other folks, questions, comments, reflections?
I'm glad.
Callaway, you doubled down on our audience. Who's over there?
No, this is my friend Colin.
Hi, everyone.
Hey, Colin.
You had me at neuroplasticity too. I love neuroplasticity. I'm a massage therapist, and so I try to work with people like that, just with no talking.
Yeah.
They can go inside, and I'm just helping them facilitate a relaxing environment.
That's it. This is the generation of self-healers. We have to teach people that their healing is our healing is our justice, and that they heal themselves. You don't heal people, they heal themselves. We just
Facilitate.
That's it. That's it. I love that. Well, thanks for joining. I love that I can flirt with y'all with science. Y'all are like, is she?
Oh, yeah.
She's seen her post. Oh, she want to flirt. Y'all are just.
That's right.
I love that. Thank you so much. This has been so awesome. I love it.
You're so welcome. You're so
So
welcome.
maybe we'll have you back in the fall. We'll see if your schedule permits.
I would love to come back and see y'all. Also, it's very possible by the fall, I'll probably be on some new shit. I like to evolve quickly. I do. Y'all be like, you just told us. I'm like, scratch that. Check this out.
Okay. Hey, we'll be here for it.
I know that's right. But thank you, Tiff. I really appreciate the invite too.
Yes, thank you for being here. And thank all of you for being here and spending your time with us this afternoon.
Thank you.
So have a good afternoon. I'm going to stop the recording now. Take care.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye. You guys take care. Pull down my screen.